All right, we are live. Hello and welcome everybody. We will do this every single Wednesday, 1 p.m. California time and 4 p.m. Eastern time. Samir is back with us. Samir, if you want to do like a quick intro for people who may not have watched our first session.
Sure, no problem. So yes, hi, my name is Samir. Everyone, Samir Kedeker. I'm an immigration lawyer. I've been an immigration lawyer for more than 20 years now. I practice in the Silicon Valley area. Worked with very large companies, but also worked with employees on H1Bs, and we do EB1s and O1s, and started a Vanguard visa law firm, our firm, in 2018. So happy to be here. Currently, actually calling from Denver, Colorado, not Silicon Valley. I'm here for the annual American Immigration Lawyers Conference. So almost every immigration lawyer in the country is here in Denver, and so we're super excited to be here and excited to talk.
Nice. So since you are among the immigration world, I have been seeing a lot of news, or at least not news, but a lot of WhatsApp messaging floating around and Instagram stories floating around about F1 visa appointments are resumed, and there's like a policy change, and there's some new guidance to consular officer. Is this true, or like is this coming? Like, do you have
Yeah.
this insider information?
Well, there's some updates today. I think they knew that UD is having his podcast, so they wanted to give us something to talk about. Apparently,
Nice.
so no, well, there isn't a policy update per se. What happened is the State Department, which oversees all the consulates, right? They issued an internal cable to all their diplomats and consular officers around the world with instructions on how they are to review student visa holders' applications, the student visa applications for their social media presence and profile. So that's basically what happened. That cable was somehow made available to Politico, who then reported on it. It all happened today. So I would say many of the several thousand immigration lawyers that I'm with probably don't even know about this yet because it hasn't become a thing. But that is basically what happened.
Mm. And any insight from that? Like, what
Yeah.
are the guidance for consular officer? Like, I know we will probably do more once it becomes like an official thing, but
Yeah.
any like insights from what you've seen?
Yeah, so the political article doesn't really go into great detail, but I don't think it really needs to. I think we all have a sense of kind of what the government is going to be looking for based on a lot of the past communications from them, posts, tweets, et cetera. I think we have a pretty good idea of what they want to do more review of, right? And so, of course, we'll know for sure, but we can pretty much surmise, number one, that they are going to be instructed to evaluate all student visa holders' social media profiles extensively before the interviews.
Mm.
So, looking for things like, any indication of kind of political content, commentary, especially with respect to anti-Israel sentiment, which they interpret as also pro-Hamas sentiment, but it's not related to that. They basically will look for any content that they deem to be kind of contrary to American values, right? And there's a broad interpretation of what that means. So you can pretty much be sure that any kind of political related content may come under the scrutiny of this. So that's just something to watch out for.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, and I know I see a lot of questions already about WhatsApp conversation. Like, I guess this is one. Our WhatsApp conversation calls subject to be social media scrutiny, and I don't think the guidance is out yet, so we won't know. But anything that what do you think, Samir, for that
Well,
one?
I mean, think about how this is working, right? So if the officers, I don't know for sure, right? But if we look at kind of what the mechanics of how this works, this may answer the question. So the officer likely must review social media profiles before the interview, right? So they're going to be accessing these online. Okay. So
Mm.
obviously they cannot obviously access your WhatsApp messages, online. They have to look at your phone, right?
Mm.
So it's unlikely beforehand that they'll be looking at WhatsApp. They'll be looking at, Insta, Reddit, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the typical platforms that they can access online.
Mm.
And so I think that's where their initial inquiry will be. However, they always reserve the right to look at your phone at the interview, right? So
Even at the visa interview?
Yes, they can ask to see your phone there. Yeah. Also keep in mind that CBP, which is a separate agency, Customs Border Protection, has the right to look at anybody's phone at the airports.
Yeah.
So the airports are not like, you have less constitutional rights of privacy, right, when you're outside the U.S.
Yeah.
Consulates, right? And the airports are kind of considered not technically within the U.S. for those purposes because people are traveling in.
Yeah. And I guess everyone has been asking, are there dates from that cable that they mentioned when the visa slots are going to open up?
That was not reported. So I think there's some, commentary out there. Oh, in 5 days they're going to start. We haven't heard anything to that effect. So until we do, we probably have to reserve comment. But I would imagine it's going to be. I mean, if an officer has to review every social media profile, they have to develop. Each consulate now has to develop the process, right, to do that and make time for that. The hundreds and hundreds of visa applications they have to do. So it still may be a little bit of time before they renew appointments, but we'll see.
Yeah. And my guess is, again, and this might be, again, like a question probably I can imagine people asking, what if my account is private? So do they have to make their account public so that like these officers can actually see what you've been posting?
Well, I guess it depends on maybe you can help me with this, Yudi. I am not the most technologically proficient when it comes to social media profiles.
Yeah.
What it means for an account to be private, it's different in different contexts, right? At different platforms.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, for example, if I make my Instagram account like completely private, nobody can see it other than like the people who I either follow. Like, again, I can set some rights, like, okay, only these people can see me, or people who have been following me can see it.
As opposed to LinkedIn, which is like pretty much public, and there's no really kind of filtering there. So I would say, I mean, if I was an officer and your account was private, it would appear to me that you had something to hide, right? So while there is no clear directive right now as to your accounts must be public, I think we have to think of in terms of best practices for you, right? So if your accounts are public, it's going to be easier for them to look at your profile. And if everything checks out and there's nothing inflammatory on your profile, that'll make it easier for you to get your visa, right? If you think about it kind of in terms of the process. So I think it's a best practice to make it public. If there's something you're concerned about in terms of any posts you have, it would be probably a good time to go back and just kind of clean that up a little bit and delete some posts. I mean, there's nothing wrong with deleting posts. I've done it before on LinkedIn. I go back, I'm like, I wish I didn't post that. It happens to everybody. Like I'm pretty much okay with that. But I would want to make, as many of your social media platforms as accessible as possible to facilitate the visa process.
Yeah. And again, I know a lot of people are asking for dates. We don't have the official dates yet.
There's been no word from the government. And until we hear from them, it's all speculation.
Yeah. All right. You ready for some calculations?
Let's do it. Yeah, I got my math mind ready for you.
Nice. Okay. Here we go. H1B extension pending since March 21, 2025. No job duty, location, position change from initially filed petition. Does the difference rule still apply, or that regulation is taken off?
Yeah, great question. The deference rule is part of the kind of H1B modernization rule that Biden's administration published towards the end of last year. So it's very difficult to turn that back. Like the Trump administration will have to jump through a bunch of hoops to kind of revoke that regulation. So yes, it technically does apply. The deference rule applies. And for those that don't know what that means, the deference rule means like if you're applying for an extension of a visa, like an H1B or an O1, and really nothing has changed, and it was approved before, and nothing has changed, everything is the same, the government should defer to the fact that they approved you before, as it informs their decision on what to do on this case, right? So that's what the deference rule is.
Nice. Okay. My national interest waiver, I-140 petition was filed by employer. 40 petition processing time for Nebraska center is 16.5 months as per the USCIS website. Can you give me some idea on the typical processing time that you're seeing for I-140 petition?
Well, I wouldn't know because we premium process all of our cases for that reason. None of our clients want to wait 16 and a half months, right? So if the government is saying that, they're unfortunately pretty accurate. Like that's pretty much how long they're going to take, or even longer, right? So versus premium processing, which it's a 45 business day turnaround, admittedly, maybe a slightly higher chance of an RFE if you premium process, but compare that to the downside of waiting a year and a half to 2 years to get approved, and you'll have to kind of figure out, which is the best path for you.
Yeah. F grade ethics violation noted on transcript, notable removal 1 year from now, MBA awarded, safe to start PERM now or wait, update the transcript later.
What is an ethics violation? I've never seen that one before. Number one, I'd be, okay, this has nothing to do with PERM. Okay, I mean, I understand why you're asking the question. A PERM application is a labor market test for a position, right? That requires a degree. A position requires a degree, a certain number of years of experience, or no experience at all on special skills, right? So if you have what the job requires, it doesn't matter if you got an F or had an ethics violation. Like they don't care about that. What they care about is, was a degree awarded for PERM purposes?
Nice. Okay.
Okay.
I got my green card through EB1B on May 5th, 2023. What is the latest time, or when is the latest time I can apply for citizenship?
The latest time? Before you die? I mean, there's no limit as to when you can apply.
Means earliest.
Well, he said latest. I mean, so some people will want to put it off. So there are some people that don't want to become citizens right away for various reasons. Gotcha. Sometimes tax reasons. There are other reasons, residency obligations, right? When you have to live in the U.S. if you want to. So if it's the earliest, the answer is 4 years, 9 months after the green card is approved. If it's the latest, there is no time-bound limit. You can apply whenever. Okay.
You could just keep extending your green card.
If you remember my story from first, like I was born in India because my mom went back to India from the U.S. to have me. I had a green card for 30 plus years before I did my own citizenship. My dad had a green card. I did his citizenship. I forced him to. And he had a green card for 45 years. So you can have a green card permanently if you want. And then if you choose to, apply for citizenship later on, so long as you still meet the requirements for your green card. You haven't jeopardized your green card in any way.
Nice. Okay. Can you premium process does increase the chances of RFE for national interest I-140 approve?
Yeah, I mean, there's no certainty around that, but our suspicion is probably slightly. Yeah, I would say probably slightly for the NIW and for the EB1A. If you premium process, we estimate a 5 to 10% higher chance of an RFE. So it's a slightly higher chance, but in my view, totally worth it. Because if you're waiting a year and a half for the same answer, then you've just wasted a year and a half of your life. So what does money mean to you time-wise, right? This is a calculation you have to make for yourself. But we are advocates of premium processing for all cases, if you can afford it.
Okay. I've completed 1 semester, spring 2025, of studying in United States and have returned to India for summer break. While I'm on Indian soil, am I allowed to do paid remote work for US company?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, U.S. immigration rules only have jurisdiction over you when you're on U.S. soil.
Nice.
Now, in this case, you are an Indian national in India, working in India. We should be allowed to work in India. Unless you're in some way violating Indian rules, which I'm not aware of. But as far as the U.S. immigration rules, yes, 100%.
Nice. My H1B petition was filed with consular processing. Is it mandatory for me to get visa stamp before October 1st?
No, it's not. In fact, the earliest you can do it is September 20th. But it's not mandatory. You have to talk to your lawyer to make sure you get advice from them as to when you should do it. Okay, because if you're filing with consular, it probably means you're traveling or something. There's a reason why you're doing it. There is a limit out there somewhere after October 1st. It's not a hard limit. There's no official deadline. It's very personal to your case as to when you should activate your H1B by getting a visa stamp and entering the US with your approval notice. So make sure you speak to your counsel about that.
Okay. Long question. Recently graduated from University at Buffalo with master's in business analytics. I'm a professional powerlifter with multiple national championship. I've also been featured on University of Buffalo for Now News for my athletic achievements. I would like to know if this profile could potentially qualify for O1 under the extraordinary ability in athletics category. Wow. Okay.
Wow, very impressive. We have a power lifter at our firm, not professional, but she is a power lifter, which is pretty cool. In any case, the answer is you could get, I mean, you could possibly, we'd have to kind of, I mean, it looks like you have the profile of somebody that might probably get an O1 as a power lifter, but you'd have to use it to work as a power lifter. Like you're literally, that's what the visa would cover, is powerlifting related stuff.
Oh, so that's their story angle.
It's limited to that. And if your MBA is in business analytics, it's going to be a tough connection. Like you can't use the O1 as a power lifter to help you in your professional job, but uses your MBA.
Also, do you guys do profile evaluation? Like if yes, like what's the way for them to get into?
100%. If you click the link on our little link to on your YouTube to our website, you can fill out a form and request an evaluation for an O1 or an EB1. It's free, 15-minute evaluation.
Oh, nice. I didn't know it was free.
The EB1s and O1 evaluations are free. If you have like a specific question about like, what are my options if I don't get an H1B, or grace period questions, or just kind of personal legal advice questions, we do have to charge for those consultations. But we do profile evaluations for free.
Nice. Okay. Is this the right time to pay the MRV fee, or it's better to wait forced to open the slots? I'm assuming
if you're able to pay the fee, I guess you can go ahead. I guess why are you in a rush to pay the fee? If you can't, what does it matter? Maybe if it's easier for you to pay the fee now versus later, sure. I mean, I don't see any reason why not. But it would probably make sense, to do it all at the same time. That's probably what I would do.
Yep. I have L1 extension filed by my current employer. People suggested me to go for H1, and I went with other consultancy services, and I got my H1 picked in the lottery this year. Now I'm in dilemma. You are nodding.
Why would you do that? Or did you talk to an attorney? I know people suggested it, but this is a legal process. You should always speak to an attorney and get legal advice. But is there a second part to the question? Or is it just the logo?
I don't see the second. I guess I went with got my H1 picked in the lottery this year. Now, shall I do H1? Will it impact my L1 extension?
So I understand why you went for an H1, because you're worried about you're not on the L1 infinitely, right? You will end it soon, and you want something to go on. So if you choose to do the H1, you have to go work for that consultancy, right? You can't leave your current company. Like your current company is not going to do an H1 for you, right? They haven't done it. If you want to stay with the current company, they're the ones that should have done the H1 for you. And if they were not going to do it, and you went to a consultancy just to get an H1, well, you have to go work for that consultancy to actually be an H1, right? So I'd be careful about just generally. I was nodding my head, and I wasn't trying to be judgmental. But beware of going to consultancies to try to kind of find ways around, immigration rules, because they can often get you into trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't want to be viewed as somebody who's trying to circumvent rules. Okay. That gets you they label you as like with that fraud word, right? And fraud to lifetime ban from the US. I'm not saying you committed fraud here, but it was kind of like, why are you doing an H1B with a consultancy if you never really had the intent to work with them? So just be careful with that.
Okay. I'm currently on H1B. My company wants me to travel internationally for work. I've been hearing a lot of concern regarding immigration. So is it safe to travel internationally, or should I avoid?
Well, of course, this is something that you should get personal advice, because is there anything in your background that might make it risky? I can't tell just by looking at your picture. But based on what you're saying, generally speaking, our H1B clients are not really having that much of a difficulty in traveling right now. So long as all their documents are in order, if they have a visa stamp already, they're employed and they have proof of that upon reentry, all of our clients have had a relatively seamless travel experience. so far.
Nice. Okay. My H1B, I think we covered that question. Okay. Due to family medical emergency, I came to India and lost the job. Should I try coming back? What path can I take to come back? Hirsch, I think we may need more.
Yeah, what visa status were you in before? And what are your options to come back to? I think you might need a personal consultation on that one because it's a very personal situation that you're in. Yeah.
Yep. Looks like a lot of people are asking, should they pay service and MRV fees? I'm assuming they're afraid that the slots will open up and they might not have enough time to pay the fees. I'm not sure why.
If that's the case, I mean, I honestly don't know about the mechanics here. Okay, but will you, if you pay the fee now, will that be accepted for when slots are opened up? You know how government systems are. Like, are they connecting the dots and are they going to make you pay again? I don't know how that's going to work. So I would say, like, go ahead and pay it now, but understand that the risk is you may have to pay it again if for some reason it wasn't accepted or connected to their whatever their new visa process is going to be.
Yeah. Okay, I'm on H1B. It expires March 12, 2026. I anticipate my company starting the renewal LCA plus I-129 in September 2025 with PERM processing. What's the earliest I can go to stamp the renewed H1B? 90 days?
I don't know where you got the 90 days from. The earliest you can go to renew your stamp is you can go at any time so long as you have a valid I-94. Right? So right now you have one valid through March 12, 2026. I'm assuming that's when your stamp expires too. So if you want to get a renewed stamp, you need to wait until your extension, your H1B extension is approved. When that's approved, then you can go. I don't think you have to wait 90 days before the March 12th expiration because you have a new I-797.
Okay. Is it an issue if the 18-month stamp OPD reporting deadline was missed? I have since transition to H1B as of October last year, and my H1B was issued in early January 2025.
The 18-month STEM OPT reporting deadline was missed. I would probably encourage you to talk to a lawyer just to kind of make sure that they're looking into your file and this is kind of I don't know to answer this question. I don't know what you mean by reporting deadline was missed. Check with your school to see if your CVIS record has been adversely affected by that. You can talk to them and then get that information and go talk to a lawyer to figure out how this might impact your H1B. Generally speaking, I'm not saying you should do this, Gopi, but generally speaking, if you have an issue with your status and you're kind of unclear as to is it affecting me right now, like if I made a mistake on my F1, then I changed to H1B and I don't feel secure because of that mistake that was made before, generally travel and re-entry with like in your H1B stamp generally resets that. Okay, not always, but generally it kind of wipes the slate clean a little bit. So that should be something you discuss with the school in terms of the CVIS record, and then talk to an attorney about what you should do, if anything.
Okay. Lots of H1B question today. H1B amendment filed for address change or regular processing, received an RFE. Can a response to my RFE be filed in premium processing?
Your company would just need to submit the premium processing form with the response. And then once they do, the government must respond within 15 business days.
That's an interesting question. Is it a common strategy for attorneys to respond late to an RFE? My I-140 RFE hasn't been responded to in the last 45 days. It's really frustrating. Can I do anything?
Well, when you say late, I think you're meaning it's just like later than you like versus literally missing the deadline, right? Later than you like, it's not a strategy. It's probably a workload capacity issue on the part of the law firm, okay? So I would suggest you communicate with your attorney and explain your frustration and ask them for an indication as to when are they going to be able to get to the RFE response.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. I don't think we also have any information about the refusal slots. Do we?
No, we don't. No.
Yeah. Okay. Any comments on travel for H1B stamping to India? If everything is okay in petition and have all necessary documentation, do you still see any risk?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned before, if everything is in order, that's a big if. Just make sure everything's in order. Then we have not really seen any issues with respect to H1B stamping and reentry. More than what issues that existed before, which is like a slight probability of a T21G administrative check, right? But nothing massively different.
Yeah. Okay. I filed my H1 in premium with future employer. How many unemployed days are allowed in H1B cap post-STEM OPT? My university has given post-STEM OPT extension till April 1st, 2026. Here we go, some math to do.
Okay, so if you're in cap gap, you're either in cap gap or you're in STEM OPT. It's one of the two. So this is kind of a bit of a confusing question because I don't think this person fully understands which one they're in right now. Okay, so if you're in cap gap, that means you're in the first OPT stage, right? Then it's the same number of unemployment days. If you're in STEM OPT, okay, then it's the number that applies to STEM OPT applies, right? So check with your school on that as to which one you're on.
Looks like
once you're officially in the H1B, there's no unemployment limit. You can't be unemployed at all, basically, to maintain your H1B.
It looks like he said cap. At least he responded cap.
Cap. So cap on the initial first year OPT.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then you're in the first year OPT period. So you know what the unemployment days are in that period. That hasn't changed.
Nice. Okay.
90 days. Yeah.
Right now I'm in F1 visa status, working as a contract employee, and back in India, I published 4 research papers, and those are related to my work. Am I eligible for O1 visa?
I mean, are you eligible for an O1 visa? It certainly helps you have publications, but you need to get an assessment done. It's much more than have I published. Where have you published? Is it, you said it's related to your work, but is it of the level required by USCIS? And you need more than just publications to qualify, right? You have to meet at least 3 different categories. So get an assessment. We're happy to do one for you. But the general rule is, like, if you're an F1, consider the O1 as a possibility, as a backup to the H1B, right? And remember, like, you may not have everything you need to qualify for it, but you can build that up legitimately.
Yeah.
Okay. And then secondly, remember, for the O1, for the most part, you have to have an employer sponsor you. So it's not different from the H1B in that way, for the most part. There are some cases where you have your own company sponsor yourself if you're a founder. Or have an agent sponsor you, but the agent would need to show contracts that are already signed with companies, right? So once again, get an assessment, but yes, that might help you on your path to an O1.
Okay. I'm trying to fetch my I-94 travel history, and I'm able to get I-94, but not travel history. Could you let me know what I need to do?
You probably can't do anything. Sometimes that system is faulty. Sometimes they don't have your travel history. There's no customer service you can go to with DHS. No one's going to be able to help you. It is what it is. What you can try is you go to a website called DHS TRIP, Traveler Redress Inquiry Program. Okay. And that's where you can say, hey, look, on my page, I'm not able to pull up the travel history. Is there anything you can do? And maybe they'll help you. Maybe they won't.
Okay. H1B extension applied on April 1st, and my current H1 expires on August 31st, 2025. No change in client, job, role. If I do premium processing, does it increase RFE chances?
I don't think so. Not for the H1B.
Nice. Okay. I was on STEM OPT EAD. Now I have EAD based on my adjustment of status, green card application. Do I need to fill form I-983 form to update SEVIP portal or any other place? Where do I need to update?
Talk to your school. I wouldn't do anything until you get your green card, because you're still kind of in this in between stage, right? you're still kind of in F1 status, but you're kind of not because you have a pending green card. And so check with your school as to, what they think you should do for reporting purposes. But for the most part, like from my perspective, I think not much has changed until you get the green card. And then that's when the updates need to be made, if any.
Yep. Okay. When will J1 visa appointments open this year for resident physicians? I don't think we have any update on that as well.
We don't. Yeah, this is the same issue as the F1. We don't know yet, which
Yep.
is a super bummer. Why do we not want physicians coming into the US? I don't know.
Yeah. So this is a follow-up. Will the ethics stipulation student violated MBA code of conduct noted on transcript have any implication on my green card process, whether PERM or future stages?
No. I mean, for these processes, the government doesn't care about that. They just want to see a degree was issued.
Okay. Do you recommend day one CPT in this administration if someone didn't get their H1B picked in their last attempt?
I would say almost 100% no. I would not recommend it. Day one CPT, while technically legal right now, it's something that, I can see this administration hating, right? Because it allows more people to work. Really, it's more about work than it is about school. And this administration is about less immigrants working. So they, in my view, they just haven't had their time to turn their attention to it. But I could see them totally going after day one CPT as a program in its entirety. So I would be careful and steer clear. Look at the O1. Look at building your profile through an O1 for an O1 visa. That is
maybe Samir, I think we should do like a follow-up O1 people who didn't get picked, and like how can they build their profile for O1 or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've done a master class on this. We can do one specifically for your audience here, right?
Yeah.
Because it is something that not enough people are considering, and it's a lot of work, but there's a lot at stake. So I'm certain a lot of you would want to do this work.
Yeah, and I think this also applies to students who are currently in their master's program, and maybe they don't have to like they can get started on that profile building path.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, Ajay is back. He's saying STEM OPT done on May 16, 2025. H1B picked this year. So I applied for H1B cap. So his STEM OPT was completed, I guess, or expired. May 16.
Oh, I see. That STEM OPT expired and you got cap. So you're in your STEM OPT period right now. So it's a STEM OPT unemployment number. It's the same. That hasn't changed.
Yeah. Okay, big question. Currently, I'm on F1 OPD STEM, expires July 2026. I do have H1B approved in consular processing. I'm planning to travel in December 2025 and return in a month. What would be the best plan in this case between traveling on OPT and ask employer to file for change of status for H1B after return, or travel after completing the change of status and go for stamping in this trip to India?
If you have an H1B approved with your employer for consular processing, then the way to activate it is not file for change of status, is to re-enter with an H1B visa stamp. So I would encourage you to talk to your company's counsel, and because they have your H1B, they kind of have your file. You should be talking with them. But for your knowledge, that's the way to activate the H1B, is to return to the US with an H1B visa stamp. So when you go in December, you can get the visa stamp then and come back in and activate the H1B.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. If the employer supports remote work, is it advisable to travel to India now for a first-time H1B visa interview and stamping, or would it be better to wait until later this year?
Yeah, I'm not sure what remote work has to do with anything. If you got an H1B approved and you have to get your H1B stamped, then I would say you do it kind of as soon as you can. I don't see why waiting would help in any way.
It's an interesting question. Could you throw some lights on malpractices for EB1 these days? So what's going
Yeah,
on?
there's some drama happening right now, Yudi, on the EB1 side.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay, what's going
Yeah,
on?
there's some drama happening, and yeah, I think I even talked about this last week. Not about the actual drama, but just like, the way you go about building your profile for an EB1 needs to be legitimate, right? It needs to be true to your field, and you can't buy your way to an EB1A. Unfortunately, a lot of people do, right? So what's happening here now? People are starting to get text messages from USCIS if they've had an EB1 pending or approved, even that USCIS intends to revoke that EB1 because information about how they've attained media articles or awards, have come to light, right? And so
Oh,
they are going back and they're looking at some of these cases, and people that appear to have gone and solicited evidence, and it's not real evidence, it's kind of manufactured for the purpose of the EB1, like are in danger of losing their and it's not in malpractice. Malpractice is when a lawyer messes up, right? This is not really a lawyer messing up unless the lawyer told you to do this, but even then it's not really malpractice. This is possibly fraud, right? And that's going to impact those that have EB1s. So this is a developing situation. We're just starting to hear about this. I know it's all over Reddit. Lawyers haven't received these revocations yet, so we're not exactly sure what the legal implications are just now, but we are definitely monitoring it.
So the people who have gotten EB1A approval or the cases are pending, they're getting text from USCIS that, hey, we are re-reviewing it.
That's what we're hearing. Yeah, I saw a screenshot of a text, and you always like worry like, oh, is this a scam? But
Yeah.
it's not a scam, because like, how would they know you had an EB1, right? And like, so we're pretty certain it's a real thing from USCIS.
Wow.
So it just underscores like the importance of building your profile in the right way. Don't take shortcuts. I mean, there are things you can do. This is what we teach in our profile building course. Like, there are things that you can do to lighten your load, to find economies of scale, right? To leverage networks, right? There are certain hacks you can do, but these are not EB1A hacks. These are just kind of like strategic hacks, right? To save time management hacks, right? But at the end of the day, you need to have a unique case that demonstrates how you're recognized as an expert in your field, right? That's what you have to do. And if you're building a profile that looks like everybody, you know why USCIS knows this is happening? Because everyone's EB1A is starting to look the same. They're all going to the same places and getting the same articles done and the same awards. And they're like, what is this, right? I mean, I would react the same way if I was them, honestly. So think about how you build your profile. You want to stand out. Don't follow the crowd, right? And this is what we teach in our course.
Yeah. I'll put the link of your course as well. And maybe we should like do another thing on EB1A. I know we talked about O1.
Yeah. They're very similar, but there are some differences, right? And so this is an example of, well, first of all, this problem is also coming up in O1, okay? But there's an overlap definitely between the two. And then there are considerations that are separate. So yeah, it would be good to do maybe a different one for each.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Got an H1B cap exam job offer. Should I rather ask for O1 sponsorship? I think I'm qualified for it. Or should I enter USA on H1B and apply from US?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe you're working at a university. Maybe not, but most likely you are. I would say for you, an O1 is probably better if you can do it, because it allows for more flexibility were you to leave that job and go to another job. Because if you had an H1B cap exempt job, you can only go to other cap exempt employers, but you're really limited in your potential universe of future employers. But if you get an O1 approved, then the next company can, more likely than not, take that O1 and transfer it to them and apply for a new O1 for you. But since you've been approved already, they know you can get approved again, right? And then it'll open up kind of more options employment-wise, right? The only question is like, why would they do that for you? It's expensive and time-consuming, and if they're just going to do an H1B for you, then that may just be what they do. So you definitely, certainly, I would encourage you to ask them, but they may not.
So I know for H1B you can't pay your own fees type of thing, but for O1, could you do that or no?
You technically can, yeah. You could, but it's still an employer-sponsored process, and so sometimes employers, organizations are reluctant to allow. Like, if you're going to pay the fees, like maybe you'll pay their lawyer, and maybe that'll work, right? But they are still going to have to be the ones to sponsor you. So,
Okay. 3 to 5 research paper in data analytics enough to get O1. Rahul, 1, we will do a special session. 2, there is an assessment pre-evaluation. Link is in the description. Check it out. But again, I'll let you answer, Samir.
It's much more complicated than like, I have this thing. Can I get an O1? Like, you have to basically show that you're among the very best at what you do. Okay. So that might help answer your question. That's one kind of aspect to the overall equation, but it's just one aspect. And it's good that you have paper. That's a good start. Citations, it depends on the field you're in and whether it should be expected of somebody like you to have citations or not. There is a misnomer about citations. Everyone thinks they need citations for their papers to count, right? And I would say, well, if you're in research, academia, science, then yeah, because you demonstrate your influence through citations, right? But if you're in the private sector, right, you're in industry and you have publications, like, that's not how you demonstrate your influence. So in that case, you don't need citations. So it really just depends, right, on a lot of factors, which is why you need an assessment.
Yeah. Okay. My L1 expired this month. Extension filed in February 1st. My company is not doing green card as of now, and for sure they won't do EB1. What is the best way to stay in United States, if not consultancy?
Well, that's a tough one. I would say I'll be blunt. Okay. If you're in the L1 and your company is not trying to help you, right, it's very difficult to find anything else. There's not many other options for you. The one option, we talk about the O1, okay, but you have to be, are you somebody who can show you're among the very best in the world at what you do, right? If so, then that's something you can go for or something you can build towards, okay? But then a company would need to agree to do it. Do you understand? So I would say it's going to be rough. There's not many options for you, and you may also want to consider other countries and other options abroad too. Kind of put that into your bucket of options that you're considering.
Okay. Got rejection for F1 3 times in 2021. After my 12th, I was trying for bachelor's, but I got rejected 3 times in 2021. Got rejection for B1, B2, and now I'm applying for master's. Is it fine?
Well, if you've been rejected so many times, I need to know why. What happened? Why are you being rejected? This is talk to a lawyer, get a consultation, figure out what's going on. I think you need to go a little deeper into understanding why this is happening and how this may affect your future, options. So I would say generally, if you keep getting rejected, know why. Because is it going to be the same reason they're going to use to reject you now? I don't know, right? So.
Yeah. Is it good idea to start PERM process on STEM OPD without H1B?
I would say why would you want to do that? I guess maybe you want to get an I-140 approved, which would be helpful, but it's not going to give you any work authorization. It's not going to give you the ability to apply for a green card anytime soon if you're born in India, right? Because the backlogs are so incredibly long. So the best you can get out of starting the PERM is eventually ending up with the I-140, and that's about 2.5 years from now. If your company is willing to do it, most are not. Most wait till you get the H1B, right? But if your company is willing to do it, I would say that's probably a good thing because it takes so long to get a PERM approved, and it doesn't impact your non-immigrant intent because it's a company labor market test. Like, you are not filing any petitions yourself. There's no petition being filed for you yet, right? So you can kind of get the ball rolling on the I-140 process without having to jeopardize your non-immigrant status.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say yes if the company is open to it.
Okay. Can you please explain how it is followed about second lottery, which might be end of this month?
We know that's pure speculation. The government will do a second lottery whenever they deem it necessary. If anybody's saying it's happening at the end of this month, it's just that they're guessing.
Yeah.
So we'll know about it when they announce it. But I would say we talk about the second lottery, the third lottery, don't get your hopes high. It's always a very, very small number that gets selected. I would almost say plan as if it's not going to happen for you, because you need to, if you're needing an option, you need to kind of create something that's more like achievable, right? And more certain, right? And this may not be that.
Yeah. Okay. I completed spring 2020. I complete spring 2025 in US. Returned to India for a break. I can begin CPT in January 2026. While in India, am I allowed to do remote work? I think we answered this question, unless you think it's different.
Yeah, while you're in India, you can do remote work. Once you're in the US, you have to have work authorization.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the company's lawyers should be the ones advising you on this. So, because it's really, if the company is concerned, the company should talk to their lawyer too. So.
Yeah. I was referring to the 18-month report that students on STEM OPT have to file. Also, my H1B stamp was issued in January 2025, and I re-entered the USA on my H1B.
Yeah, I would say once again, check with the school to see if there's any violations showing up on their system. Okay, if there's a violation showing up on their system, then what are the ways to remove it? Like the school should talk to you about that, right? Also consult a lawyer to see how it'll affect, if anything, your H1B.
Yeah, I mean, looks like his H1B was stamped and issued,
and he looks like he left and came back. So if there was something happening in the past, it may have been kind of wiped clean. But still, you should know, right? You should ask the school. You should kind of figure out, is there anything negative on my record?
Yeah. Okay. I'm in United States on B1, B2 since 4 months. I would like to get admission in undergrad course. Can apply for change of status. I already got I-20.
Yes, you can. Just make sure like you understand the process. It's not the simplest process in the world. This is not something we as a firm do, but there are some law firms that could help you with this.
Yeah. How strict is family-based green card interview, and any details on the process time?
I guess it depends on what kind of family. We're talking about marriage-based green card, parent, different relationships here. And the answer depends on the nature of the relationship. If it's a marriage-based green card, how strict is it? It really depends on the officer. Some may just want to get to know you and just make sure the marriage isn't fake and there's a bona fide relationship. That's what they're looking for the most part. They can be reasonable. Some officers can be really unreasonable. It really just depends on the officer. So you would need a lawyer to help you kind of prep for those. And you can even have a lawyer go with you to these interviews. Processing times, once again, depends on the case. But yeah.
Do you guys do marriage-based green card?
We do marriage-based green cards, but mostly for like those who are on like business immigration, like work permits, like H1Bs, but they're getting, so there are clients, and then we do marriage-based green cards. So yes, I mean, feel free to contact us and, let us know if that's something you need help on. We'll let you know if we can help or send you to the right place.
Yeah. Okay. My office appointment was 27th June and my VAC appointment is on 2nd July, and I want to update my DS160 number in my CGI portal from which I booked my slot. Can you suggest how can I do that? Not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I guess, why do you want to update the DS160 number? Do you have a new DS160?
That's my guess.
Yeah.
Maybe changes.
Yeah. So if you made changes, I would say, I'm not sure there's a way to update the number in the portal. I'm honestly not sure. This is not something that most law firms kind of deal with. So if you haven't found the answer online, my suggestion would be take the new DS160 to your interview with you and just let them know.
Yeah, or to your biometric appointment, which is on the 7th. So
yeah.
Okay. Is change of address affect ongoing H1B extension application?
No. But remember, what do you do when you change your address? What do you always have to do? File the AR11 online. AR-11. Google it. Make sure you're doing that. that is a legal requirement, and they can technically say, we'll deport you if you don't do it, right?
Mm.
Now, will they? Probably not, but you never want to give them the opportunity. So just make sure you change your address. Otherwise, there's no impact on the H1B. The H1B, excuse me, throat's getting a little dry after talking for like 3 days at this conference.
Yeah. Oh, you're speaking?
Speaking, networking, there's a lot of people
Yeah,
here. There's a lot of talking, and my throat's getting tired.
yeah.
But H1B is an employer petition, right? It's mostly about their sponsorship, their information, the job you do for them. It's less about your address, right? So I wouldn't worry. Yeah.
Okay. Does a university's department level scholarship for leadership in the field of study count for anything towards O1? Only 2 students from class got it, 4 total in department.
Yeah, I mean, this is an example of a distinction you've had, right? Now it's school related, and the government likes to see professional level accomplishments, but it may not hurt, right? There's definitely a story we can tell about it to demonstrate some of the acclaim you received. But like we said, get an assessment, because this is just one, factor, right? It's one thing of several things you have to show in an O1.
Yeah, I mean, I know he asked for the research paper and now this, so looks like you have something, but again, it's like.
So when you get an assessment, like let's say contact us, like we'll ask you like a bunch of questions, right? And that's designed to get all the information you would need, so you can learn like how strong is my case versus how strong isn't it.
Okay. Yeah. And most consultants seem like a scam for O1. All I see is if they're trying to build my profile by getting me into some kind of program that involves fake profile building. Okay,
yeah, fake profile building is a scam. There's real profile building, and we do that. There's some lawyers that help with that. Very few, honestly. And there are companies that are trying to take advantage of you and promise you things that they should not be promising. So just got to watch out for that.
Yeah. Okay. Currently on F1 OPD stamp, which expires in April 2026. I was not selected for H1B. I'm now considering day 1 CPT, but I had already used CPT during my master's program. Am I eligible to apply for CPT again?
Yeah, I mean, check the requirements of the schools that you're looking at, the day 1 CPT schools, and they can let you know. I think it depends on to what extent you've already used CPT. Was it full-time? Was it part-time? How long was it for? A lot of factors that we don't have here. But like I said, I know you're feeling desperate about something. Rather than do day 1 CPT, why not try to position yourself for an O1? You have about a year, a little less than a year to build your profile.
Is it possible, like realistically, like do you think?
It's possible. You're going to have to like pedal to the metal but it's possible. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And your company has to agree to do it, right?
Yeah.
Once again, that's one of the things that we help coach people on: how to ask my company, right? How do I make it like so my company is less likely to say no, right? Because if you ask them in a certain way, giving them the information that they need to make it easy to say yes, right? Then they're more likely to say yes. So I'd much rather you do that than day 1 CPT, which is kind of like the easy way out, right? You're paying a lot of money. It's kind of an easy way out, and it's going to be in the crosshairs, I believe, of this administration.
Okay. I got my F1 visa refused first attempt. He asked why this university and why masters after graduation. Although I answered confidently, was given 214B. Can I reapply for fall again, and how to improve profile?
Yeah, you can always reapply. I'm not sure why that happened. You probably need to have a discussion with a lawyer about that, and kind of figure out what went wrong there, if anything. It could have just been that officer. It could have been, there could be something about your case that you need somebody professional to look at. So, but yes, in theory, you can reapply.
Yep. Okay. My EAD card is lost. I am going to file a new I-765. My employer unpaid internship doesn't want my EAD as of now. Can I report my employment on a SEVIP without my EAD card to stop my unemployment clock?
Oh, this is a bummer. Have you already? I mean, there's a bunch of questions I need to ask this person. Super specific here. It's kind of hard to answer generally. If you've already started working for them, they've onboarded you, and then you lost your card, you can continue, right? You've already been onboarded, right? Your employer doesn't want the EAD, but they're still going to make you work for them unpaid. That's a problem. Like just because you're not paid doesn't mean you're not working, right? So they're technically not in compliance either.
From a labor laws
standpoint. Yes. And from an I-9 perspective. So whether or not you can report your employment on the database is a factor of, we just need more information. So I would talk to a lawyer, talk to your school, tell them what's happening, get some advice. We need more information, but I think it's problematic what you're trying to do.
Okay. Should I wait to file I-140 before traveling back from India this year? Currently F1 OPD, second attempt at H1B did not get picked this year.
Yeah, I would say like if you're like those that need stamping, like you don't want to say you filed an I-140 and then go in for stamping, right? So if you need stamping, I would get the stamping done and then do the I-140 afterwards.
Yeah, nice. Adding more details to earlier question. Currently, I'm on F1 OPD with employer A, expires on July 2026. I do have H1B approved with employer B in consular processing. I'm planning to travel to India in December 2025, return in a month. What would be the best plan if to file for change of status after my return or before I travel to India can get stamped, as I will have 6-7 months left on my OPT. I guess this person wants to maximize the OPT.
If you want to maximize the OPT, then
or I guess I'm asking, but my guess is that's what he's trying to do.
It seems like that's what they're trying to do. Because in this case, changing to H1B means changing employers. That's what it means to this person, right? One employer, you're with one employer right now, but the other employer has the H1B. So my question to you is, like, you understand getting an H1B means working for that other company full time.
Yeah.
So the way to do that is when you're ready to do that, sometime before the expiration of your LPT, travel to get a H1B stamp and come back in to begin employment with the company B.
I worked in India with my bachelor's and I had a German business visa rejected. Will this affect my F1 visa? Could they think I'll work during studies like before?
Like before, that means you worked before while you're studying? What does like before mean? I don't think that, I mean, typically a German business visa rejection does not impact your F1 process. I don't even think that comes up. Yeah. So I wouldn't worry about that. But if you have any kind of prior kind of occurrences of working when you shouldn't be, that's a separate issue.
Yeah. Is it possible to switch from F1 status to B2 visitor? If so, what are the requirements expected?
Yeah, generally you have to file the I-539 form, and you have to demonstrate why you're changing, like what are you planning to do in the 6 months that you're requesting. It needs to be a visitor like approved activity, so you can't work. Go online, look at the list. USCIS maintains a list of permissible visitor activities. It needs to be one of those. Finally, you probably have to demonstrate your connection, your ties to your home country, right? Because that's just like you did with the F1. Part of the B2 visitor status is that you don't plan to be here forever, right? So you have to show ties to your home country.
Yeah.
I believe you are able to, no, you can't. I don't think you can premium process that. It can be anywhere from 3 months. It could take longer, 6-9 months, but you're only allowed to ask for 6 months, right? So if you don't get a response within 6 months, then you have to either file an extension or leave.
All right. One last question. Got my H1B approved. Premium approved. Premium planning to get stemmed from Canada because of long waiting times in India. Want to visit India in December. Would you suggest to get it done in Canada? Pros and cons doing so.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with going to Canada. The main problem people have is that it just takes too long to get appointments there too. There is a pretty long backlog in almost all of the Canadian posts. So if this is your first H1B stamp, it's always best to get your first stamp in your home country. But that being said, there's generally not a problem going to Canada. It's just a matter of timing for the most part.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Samir, for doing this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I will see you next week.
Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Bye-bye. All right, let me